We're going to create our first ASP.NET Core application on Windows utilizing Visual Studio 2015. So I'm going to go down here to my Start menu, and I'm going to find the Visual Studio app. Now I'm on Windows 10. For Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 users, it's a little different. Right here on Windows 10, I can find the Visual Studio icon, or I can type it right here. And then I can open up Visual Studio 2015. Now you're probably real familiar on creating a project with Visual Studio Professional 2015 or with Community version, really just depending on what version of Visual Studio you have. But once you install ASP.NET Core 1.0 and all the dependencies, you'll be ready to roll. So we'll come up here, we'll click File, New, Project, and right now we're in .NET 4.6.1, and you can see right here I'm in Visual C#. I have an ASP.NET Core web application, which is the full .NET framework, which we are not trying to target right now. And we have an ASP.NET Core web application, which we are going to target right here. We also have a section right here of .NET Core. We can create a class library for .NET Core. We can also create a console app with Visual Studio 2015. I created a console app via command line interface. And what we're really trying to focus on right here is ASP.NET Core web application. Now what I'm going to do in this case, I'm just going to browse to my desktop and I'm going to select that folder and I'm going to say right here, first app .NET Core. I'm going to press OK and look at the different choices I have for creating the application. I have an empty web application which has no dependencies to start out with. I also have a web API. It's a project template for creating an ASP.NET Core application with an example of a controller for RESTful HTTP services. This is if you want to build RESTful APIs utilizing the consumption of JSON or XML. This is not an application that you'll build directly to have a UI. It's just to consume and implement CRUD operations on JSON or XML data. And what we want to look at first here is a project template for creating ASP.NET Core applications. This has all the different dependencies associated with MVC views and controllers. You can also use this to build RESTful services. You can also change the authentication type. You can have individual user accounts. You can have work and school user accounts associated with the cloud or an organization. You can utilize Windows authentication for intranet applications. In this case, I'm going to click No Authentication, press OK. So you can just see what we get out of the box with a scaffolded website. In future lectures, we will actually build from scratch the dependencies for our application. And it's restoring all of the NuGet packages associated with our application, as you can see in the reference library for .NET Core App version 1.0. It's restoring all of our dependencies from here. And once it's finished, you'll see we have a scaffolded application. We'll have some dependencies already built into our project.json. And as you can see right here, these are the different dependencies we utilize within our application itself. We will examine all of this. But right now, let's just kind of look at what a scaffolded web application will look like utilizing the MVC framework. Let's view this in browser. This is just a default application you get scaffolded with Visual Studio 2015. And this is the basic template you'll see when you create a scaffolded ASP.NET Core application. And you'll see all the different aspects of this when you utilize the scaffolding of Visual Studio 2015. So this is how you create an application scaffolded in Visual Studio 2015. We created a console app in the previous lecture. I'll show you how to create a console app on Mac OS X and Linux, and also create a scaffolded version of an application utilizing the Yeoman generator on Mac OS X and Linux.